Alrighty, today we're going to be looking at the operation of the Oasis Yarder. So what this guy is a very small, easily placed yarder. So I used to have a very large yarder that was twice the size of this guy, but I found the smaller ones were working a lot better. So what I ended up making was this Oasis Yarder, which is a very smaller version of a crane yarder. And what the purpose of this machine is very similar to the winch skidder, where it has a winch on the top which can hook to trees at a very long distance to pull them. Now this guy has a very extremely long range for which it can pull trees. So if you're in an area similar to like on top of that mountain over there or up on some of the steps there, it's really great for pulling trees from a lower position up to a higher position. Now in this example video, I'm just going to be pulling trees across flat terrain, but you can use it on pretty much any terrain that you want for pulling it out of any area. So again, the basic operation of this guy is very simple. It has a winch built into it, so when you get the machine started, the first thing you want to do is hit B to turn on the winch, and you'll hear it kind of fire up there. Sounds kind of like a whiny little droney sound. Now, the only control you have is for the swing, which is to turn the cab back and forth, and the boom, which is to lower it and raise it. For when you're starting position, you usually want to keep your boom fairly high for easy control. Now on this guy, what you need to do, it works best if you have two people, but if you're working alone, you just want to move a deck from one area to another. It's really easy to do. So I'm actually just going to clear this tree out of my way. You usually want to make sure you have a good line of sight with whatever you're pulling. So we have all this wood over here that we want to try to pull over there. I don't know if we'll be able to do it all in one try, but we're going to give it a shot. So from this distance away, all you need to do is walk up to the wood, very similar to how you do with the winch. And if you hit B on your keyboard while the hand is highlighted on the log, it will attach the winch end. As you can see, it goes straight to the winch on that side. So now, usually what you'll want to do is you'll want to select a place kind of in the middle, because from this point is where you'll be able to connect everything around it. So we're going to hook up, actually maybe we won't take all of it. We're going to do kind of a little bit at a time here. So let's say we want this one as the middle. Oops, grab that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And you can get a lot of logs on here. I don't know what the max is. I don't think I've ever tried to max it out, but I'm sure you guys will experiment and have fun with that. So now it is remote control as well. So if you're outside of the machine, if I hit Z on the keyboard right now, it'll actually start to kind of move it. You can see that the logs are moving, and that's the winch pulling it towards it. So if I hit Z, it'll pull it pretty smoothly and straight. Now, there is a winch up option, which is to speed it up. So if you hit Shift and then hit Z, it'll pull it really fast. Now, it's a really hard pull because this guy does have a crazy long range. On the last yarder I had, people complained that it was too slow pulling it up hills. So I did make it super fast if you do really want to winch it up. So for instance, if you're at the very top of that mountain and these logs are laying way down at the bottom, if you hold Shift Z, it's going to get there a lot faster than if you were to just hold Z. So now if you're working from the cab or from this view, I recommend using the outside crane camera, because this is actually a really easy view to control it. Now if you're pulling the logs, you actually have control of the direction, kind of like a fishing rod. So I want to pull them that way. I can turn my cab this way. Whoops, I did the winch up on that one to kind of whip them over there. But it is very fast if you're trying to pull them uphill. I always recommend as you get them more towards the landing, you slow down and use the slower winch option. But if they're super far away, it is nice to get things moving and just kind of give her. Hitting X will drop the logs, but without detaching them. So if I hit X, it still stays connected, but it drops all the logs in a pile. And then if I hit Z again, it'll lift it back up. So X again drops it, but doesn't disconnect it. Now, if you want to control the logs, again, you can move them around. So for instance, I'm going to kind of throw these off to the side to make room for the other side. And then if you hold down Shift and hit B, it will disconnect them and drop them to the ground. So then you're no longer winched to those logs. So we're going to go back again to our pile, and we're going to try to get the rest of them here in one shot. Now, this is a big pile of wood, so it hopefully will go well. Now, you guys can experiment with different log sizes, distances. I did set the winch to go quite far on the logs, so you should be able to get some pretty wild distance for pulling them up hills and such. Okay, so again, back from our winching view. Now, again, if you're really far away and you want to go really fast, you can do the Shift-Z option. Oh, maybe we have too much on there. So there you go. We have too many logs on there to be able to winch that. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect a few of them here. So let's do this. And it's good we're not allowed to do more because your machine would probably start wigging out pretty bad. So let's grab that chunk there. That's a good pile of logs. And we'll try to pull that. So that's if we fast winch it, it'll come really quick up the hill to us. But then as it approaches, I recommend you slow down and use the calmer winch to kind of bring it in. Now, with the weight of these machines being as heavy as they are, they can handle these heavier logs without a problem. But you guys will be able to experiment and kind of figure out what works best for you. Let's see if we can get the rest of these in one grab. And like I said, you guys will probably prefer to use these on steeper terrains. This is just flat terrain, for example. So again, we're going to use our fast winch to really get her whipping over here. And then we're going to slow it down as we pull it in. Might actually push our logs out because I kind of... see if we can give it a jerk. Oh, there you go. The one thing I really love using the fast winch option for is you can kind of whip your logs up if they're out of place. So actually, I'm going to go one step further. We're going to grab the next pile and bring them over here too. So for instance, you see how those logs that I was just moving were kind of getting a little bit hung up? Let's see. Let's push our luck here. So what they were doing is they were coming into the pile kind of like this. And then from my view, I could see that these logs were starting to kind of push forward. So if you really quickly jar on that Shift B, or Shift Z, sorry, it'll kind of make the logs jump. So let's do a nice slow pull here first. So we're just going to kind of nicely drag these towards us. Oh, I see our one tree got turned around there. And again, you can control it kind of like a fishing rod. So now, as I approach the back of these, if I keep pulling, what's going to happen is these logs are going to run into the tops, and it'll push all these logs forward out, which is what we don't want. We want them kind of lined up here as best we can. So what I can do is while I'm hitting Shift Z, or Z, if I tap Shift Z, it'll jump them. It gives them like a little bit of a jump, and it kind of pulls it through. So that's the reason I kind of have it at such a high speed, because everybody will probably wonder why I set the speed so high for that. But it's kind of gives you ability to jump over your other logs. Now I'm going to kind of cheat with my superhuman strength and turn these around for our video here. But the Yarder is a very fun toy to play around with different scenarios. The only thing you can't do with these winch scripts is you cannot run multiple winches together. So if you have the Caterpillar dozer with the winch on it, or the Caterpillar skidder with the winch on it, you will not be able to run that at the same time as this, because this winch length is so long that it overrides all the other winches, and I don't currently have the ability to switch between them. So you do need to use one winch at a time if you're planning on using the winches. Unless you have multiple machines of the same type, then that seems to work. But again, you guys can experiment with what works best for you guys. So you can do first person, but as you can see, the view's not quite as easy. That's why I always recommend the crane cam. It's really easy to pick up. So we're going to do a fast winch to pull this stuff as it gets closer. And then as we get closer to our pile, we're going to slow it right down. And then once we line it up with our back, we're going to raise our boom up. We're going to do a little jump. And then we're going to kind of use Z again to pull it in. Just like so. And actually, I'm going to see if I can bring that up a little bit. Back it up. There we go. And then shift. You can either hit X to keep it connected. The reason you'd want to keep it connected is if you're on a hill. Sometimes what will happen is you're pulling the logs up a hill and you're kind of just leaning it on an edge, but you want to release it to see if it'll settle. So if you hit X and it settles, you know you're good to disconnect. But if you hit X and suddenly they start rolling back down the hill, at least you can just tap Z to bring them back to your crane without losing them bouncing all down the hill. Again, you can use this for swing loading, where you can actually drag it over and put it into a pile over here. Or you could, even use it for loading onto a truck if your accuracy was good enough. So we're just going to drop those there. So yeah, that basically shows off the operation of the Oasis Yarder. Very simple to use, very straightforward for what it's for. But if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them below. If not, we'll see you on the next tutorial. Thanks.